It started as a whisper, a quiet recession that many of us felt every time we visited the grocery store or looked at the price of a gallon of milk. But this morning, that whisper has turned into a deafening roar. Wall Street is in a freefall as the reality of a new, global conflict sets in. The latest figures are out, and they are catastrophic. We didn't just miss the mark. Our economy lost 92,000 jobs in a single month. Unemployment has climbed to 4.4%, and the retirement accounts so many of you have spent a lifetime building are being shaken to their very core. We are witnessing a sudden and violent shift from a struggling economy into a full-blown wartime recession. This economic explosion happened the moment the demand for an unconditional surrender was issued, sending oil prices soaring and investors running for cover. Now, as the world watches the escalating Iran-Israel war, we are forced to ask the questions that matter most to our families. Are our life savings safe? Is the American dream being sacrificed in a conflict halfway around the globe? Tonight, we dive deep into how the crisis between Israel-Iran is dismantling our prosperity and what this means for the future of Israel and for every American home. We are being told by some that this is just a wash, a temporary blip caused by a bit of snow or a few labor strikes on the West Coast. But for those of us who have lived through many economic seasons, we know better. The headline unemployment rate has ticked up to 4.4%, but that number is a deceptive mask. It doesn't count the millions of Americans who have simply given up looking for work, nor does it account for those who are chronically underemployed, like gig workers who are barely scraping by. When you look beneath the surface of the few job gains we are seeing, the picture is even more troubling. Much of the growth is concentrated in healthcare, a reflection of our aging population needing more sick care, and in specialized construction like data centers. We aren't building the infrastructure or the housing that our children and grandchildren desperately need to afford a home of their own. In fact, the average age of a first-time homebuyer has now climbed to a staggering 45 years old. This isn't a sign of a thriving nation. It's a sign of a labor market in deep distress. But the most alarming news is what is happening in the plumbing of our financial system, what experts call the repo market. Think of this as the emergency brake for the banks to ensure transactions settle without exploding. Just this week, the Federal Reserve had to step in and pump $30 billion into the system overnight, followed by another $9 billion as the conflict began. They are desperately trying to provide liquidity to keep our financial gears from grinding to a halt. This hidden instability is a ticking time bomb that has been getting louder for months. As the Iran-Israel war intensifies, the pressure on our financial markets is reaching a breaking point. Every move in the struggle between Israel-Iran sends a shockwave through our wallets and our retirement plans. While we stand for the security of Israel, we must also face the reality that our own economic foundation is being tested like never before. The lasting impact on the future of Israel and the American middle class is becoming the defining story of this decade. We are moving from a quiet struggle into a full-blown wartime recession, and the bill is coming due for every American family. For months, we were told that inflation was finally under control. But for those of us who balance a checkbook every month, we knew the truth. The only thing keeping the official numbers down was a temporary dip in energy prices. That energy shield has now completely shattered. No one predicted a full-scale war in Iran would be on the map for 2026, but the reality is now staring us in the face at every gas station. With the Strait of Hormuz effectively choked off, the supply of Middle Eastern oil has been strangled, sending crude oil prices skyrocketing well beyond any expert projections. We are seeing something highly unusual in the markets right now. Typically, American oil, known as WTI, sells for significantly less than the global Brent crude. But today, those two prices have caught up to each other and are climbing in tandem, moving higher by the day. The critical question for all of us isn't just how high the price goes, but how long it stays there. If crude stays elevated through the summer driving season, these costs will seep into everything, from the freight that delivers our groceries to the chemicals, plastics, and manufactured goods we rely on every day. This spike couldn't have come at a worse time for the American household. Many families were counting on their 2026 tax refunds to finally provide some breathing room. We were promised that these refunds, along with new tax policies, would jumpstart our economy. But with inflation roaring back to life, That extra money is being swallowed up by the rising cost of living before it even hits our mailboxes. The foundation of our inflation, the import price index, was already showing that non-fuel goods were surging in cost even before the first missile was fired. When you combine this with the jump in producer prices, it means that inflation is ready to pounce on an unsuspecting American consumer. As this Iran-Israel war continues, the fig leaf that was hiding the true state of our economy has been stripped away. The struggle between Israel-Iran is no longer just a geopolitical headline. It is a direct hit to the purchasing power of every senior on a fixed income and every working family. While we watch the strategic moves to protect Israel, we are also watching the very backbone of our financial order being tested by a more militarized and uncertain future. While the financial world scrambles for safety in the dollar, we are witnessing a truly disturbing split screen in our national priorities. On one side, there is an urgent push for the Clarity Act, a bill designed to make the United States the world's crypto capital. It feels incredibly cynical to hear demands for digital market structures and speculative bets, while the world around us is burning. This is a moment where the search for speculative profit is clashing directly with the heavy, bloody price of a war that many feel was started for no clear American interest. The depravity of this situation becomes heartbreakingly clear when we look at the headlines from the ground. Against the backdrop of this costly conflict, we have seen the devastating bombing of an elementary girls' school in Manab. Over 100 innocent children lost their lives in that single strike, a tragedy that should cause every patriot to pause and reflect. It is a grim and painful reminder that behind every economic chart, every repo market intervention, and every political agenda, there are real human lives being shattered in the most horrific ways. As the Iran-Israel war intensifies, the moral cost is beginning to overshadow any potential strategic gain. We see global investors fleeing to the safety of the American dollar, yet we must ask ourselves, what kind of safe haven are we providing if it is built on the ruins of innocence? The conflict between Israel-Iran has moved beyond simple maps and into the very soul of our nation's values. Every action taken, even those claimed to be for the security of Israel, must be weighed against the reality of these tiny graves in Manab. We are witnessing a shift toward a militarized fiscal future where military contractors may see their stocks rise, but the rest of the world, and the American taxpayer, is left to pick up the pieces. In the middle of this chaos, the US dollar is beginning to strengthen as global investors sprint toward what they see as a deep liquid bunker. But while the global investor class finds a place to hide their wealth, the rest of us are left out in the cold as our stocks crater and the growth we were promised vanishes. The reality of this Iran-Israel war is that it is hollowing out our very foundation. We are seeing a trend where fewer and fewer of us are actually working, while our purchasing power continues to decline. Policies like mass deportation have led to a shrinking labor force, making our economic sample set smaller and more fragile at the exact moment we need strength. We are moving rapidly from what was once a quiet recession into a full-blown, devastating wartime recession. Every time we look at the news regarding Israel-Iran, we see a fractured picture. The wealthy may find a safe haven in dollar-denominated assets, but for the American retiree on a fixed income, there is no bunker deep enough to hide from this rising inflation. The security and future of Israel remain at the heart of our global concerns, but we cannot ignore that this conflict is also ripping apart the economic fabric of our own country. As we wrap up today's look at the state of our union, one thing is painfully clear. The winning we were promised is starting to feel a lot like losing. From the 92,000 jobs that vanished in February to the hidden cracks in our financial plumbing, the red lights in the cockpit are all flashing at once. This isn't just a noisy bump in the data. It is a fundamental shift in the American way of life. We are witnessing the birth of a wartime recession, where the high costs of conflict are being passed directly to you at the pump and in the grocery aisle. The Iran-Israel war has stripped away the illusions of a booming economy, leaving us with stagnating wages and declining purchasing power. The struggle between Israel-Iran is reshaping our global order, and the stakes for the future of Israel have never been higher. But we must also ensure that the future of our own families and our own country is not a casualty of Nhungquiet Jin Ne. It is time to demand clarity, transparency, and a return to the values that truly make a nation strong: honesty and a commitment to the well-being of all people, especially the most vulnerable among us. Comment, pray for our economy if you are concerned about our future and the direction of our nation. And please, subscribe to join the truth seekers protecting the American dream. Your voice and your vigilance are more important now than ever. Stay safe, stay grounded, and we will see you in the next update.